Hi guys, how you doing? Today I'm going to be going through 31 days of boat drawings in 31 days. 31 boat drawings in 31 days. So today I'm going to be doing a month's worth of boat drawing every day. So, does that make sense? So we're going to be looking at my Boatober month where I drew a boat every single day for the whole of Boatober, and I'm going to be showing you some of the ones I love, showing you some of the ones I'm not so keen on, but and we're going to be chatting about some techniques and some little tricks and tips for drawing boats. It's a little bit of a show and tell, this one. I'm not going to be doing any drawing as such, but it should be fun. Right, so if any of you don't know, Boatober is something that I do every year on Instagram. I post a series of boat reference pictures, photos, and people sketch one every day. Now, you don't have to do them all, you can just do one, but basically the idea is to have a little bit of fun. I love that. And yeah. So this was a book that I did, I think it was the first year I did this, or maybe it was the second year of Boatober, but the whole book is basically boat sketches, the whole little sketchbook, and that was, one, which is great. I had another idea this year, was to do some little 5x6 pieces of art, and the idea is to sell each one for just $20, not a lot of money, to raise some money for Cancer Research UK after a friend of ours has been diagnosed. Yet another friend of mine has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. So, it's getting a bit boring now, cancer. Getting a bit sick of it. So, there you go. So some of these have sold. They need to be posted off. A lot of them have gone already. So what I'm going to do is really quickly walk you through each day, and I'll be really, really, really speedy and just say, I like this bit on this, I like this bit on this, maybe talk a tiny bit about techniques. So I'm going to get myself a cup of tea and I'm going to go and do that. So day one was quite a simple image of 4 boats. Now, the key thing about this, I think, to mention is it's just line work. It's just some simple line work and then a little bit of painting and a couple of layers. The waves, further away, smaller, close to the shore, bigger waves, and that gives you that perspective. Now, day 2 was a little bit more complex. I used some masking fluid here with a toothbrush spattered on to get the negative space for the sort of sparkly ocean, and then these boats were sort of drawn in afterwards, really. Pretty simple. Really nice, though. I like that one. Now, day 3 was what I would sort of define as a travel sketch, really. This is one of those sketches that when you look at it from zoomed out, it doesn't actually look great. But it's when you start zooming in, you start to see the little bits of magic, like the reflections on the ferry, the water, and around that house on the left, just behind the ferry, there's some fun things happening. Now, the water was done with a dry brush technique there, where you just load the brush up and then you put it on its side and go across the textured paper quite quickly, and it creates that sort of effect. Day 4 was a lot more complex scene. It was actually a big scene with 2 ships in, and I just refined it down really to the little tug, which I loved. They've got such character, these little tugs. The water has been done with a white gel pen, but I don't think it's right. I think there's something wrong about the shape of the boat there, particularly around the bow, but I'm not bothered. It was a fun thing. It was a really fun sketch, and I liked it. Okay, this was probably one of my favourites. This was all done with ink, all done with the same colour ink, with the exception of the line work. The line work really is the kind of hero in this, in a way, because in certain areas I kept it quite messy and jumbly, just so it sort of suggested that things without really, showing what they are, such as like the figures and things like that. But the ink in the sky as well has got this wonderful chromatic effect where it's got some yellows and sort of browns in it. But that worked really well. I love that, and I love the boat. I mean, she's a stunning boat. That's the Waverley, which is a paddle steamer still operating on the coast of the UK. This one's was a bit messy actually, and I think looking back, the boat's a little bit light. I think it needs a bit more darkness on the hull. Very similar image in many ways to the one with the two boats in. This was a tour de force in cross-hatching, this one. There's even cross-hatching in the waves, and as you can see in the foreground, the waves are big and then they get smaller as you go back until I've just created a cross-hatch sort of on the horizon. Some of the detailing on the boat is very strong. I think that's worked really well. A little shadow under the fender, and I've used a bit of a gel pen just to create a bit more white space. This was a really hard image to actually paint, and I don't think I did a brilliant job, but I've sort of captured the essence of it, if you know what I mean. The water, the drips of water and the stuff with the white gel pens work pretty well. I still think, again, its contrast is key really for stuff like this, and she needs to be darker. There needs to be a bit more contrast in the figure for her to become a real silhouette, if you know what I mean. I love this suggestion on the left-hand side of the leaves, which again were silhouetted. But if you look at the reference drawing, it's one of the reasons why I put it in is because it's quite a challenging one, that. And I wanted people to try and do something that they wouldn't normally tackle. This is a lovely palette, this one, day 9. This boat on the... Yeah, this was fun. I mean, in the foreground, I've tried to put some texture, some quite specific textures. And then as you get further back, it just gets a bit more chaotic, and I like that. I like that sort of vibe. And then in the middle, we have the boat, which is very much the hero. And this very wet sky with these broken areas is quite fun. So this is number 10, which is probably one of my least favourite ones. The perspective, it was quite a hard one to draw really, because there was a lot of perspective in it. I think it's fine, but it didn't really move me at all. Day 11. This wasn't a bad one. I think the composition here is off somehow. I think having the boat very central doesn't quite feel very comfortable, and I think there's a bit of an issue around the bow in terms of the shape of the boat. I think it's a little bit high, sort of where that sort of reflection is. But anyway, I'm being a bit picky here. I love the broom. That's really cute. So day 12, this was one where I used some of the Lamy turquoise ink and then went in afterwards with a water brush and just sort of diffused some areas, added a little bit of shadow. It's a really super simple technique and I love it. So we've got day 13 here. Now this is probably one of the most complex drawings in terms of water reflections. What I've tried to do is I've used a Posca pen and for the yellow, and the blues were done with watercolor, and then there was it's quite a complicated water effect. I'm not sure 100% how effective it is. I quite like the figures. I thought the figures were quite nice. So day 14, there you go, boat bums. I like that with this. What I tried to do with this is sort of paint outside the box, and not be too fussy. So you can see the paint actually bursts through some of the sort of outlines of the boats. But then I chickened out and used a gel pen. So day 15, this is another corker. I think this was pretty good. It was a hard, really quite a hard reference, that, because it was quite a low light generally. So you had to sort of find your own contrast in it really. But yeah, that worked very well. You can see what I've done is, like I normally do, I've put some sort of spatters in the foreground to try and sort of an easy shortcut to texture. And as we get further back, there is some texture, but it's fainter. And the whole point of this is the background is softer, and as we get into the foreground, it gets more detailed, and that gives you your sense of depth in it. This one it was a really fun one. I actually recorded this and did a sort of little demo of it as I recorded it, about line thicknesses and things like that. I don't know when that's going to come out, but I'll talk you through that one a bit. When I finished the demo, I actually thought it needed some water, so I went back in and I put some water in to that, to the final one. This is cool. Again, it's that same sort of technique of just simple line work and then a little bit of tinting in the sky. Now the background was done with grey fine liner actually, and that helps it disappear a little bit. And then the foreground was black fountain pen with some quite thick lines around the gondolas. This one, which is just sold, I think, to John. The watercolor is mixed in the background, just behind the boat. That's very strong, and it's a fun one. This is very much my style, sort of thick outlines and try to some character in the line work. Try to keep it loose. It's nice that. So day 19. There's some really beautiful water in this. The boats look, because I've used a very thick outline around the boats, they look like toys. Their scale is something a bit weird about the scale in this one. And I've obviously forgotten to paint all the fenders in. They're supposed to be like pink, but anyway, it's too late now. This was a hard one. If you look at the reference, this mist was very hard to get. And actually, I ended up using white gouache and then sort of dissolving it. But the thing that I found the most interesting about this was the textures. If you look at the rope, look at the the sort of cracked paint on the hull of the little rowing boat, and it was really the textures that drew me to this. And I think that's quite a good little drawing. So this container ship was fun. I did two versions of this because the first one wasn't happy with. And then I ended up doing a really simple one where the line work was really the hero, and then I added these containers, some colour later to the containers. And again, a little bit more contrast in this would have helped to sort of tell the story of the shape of them, if you know what I mean. I've got some light and dark and some shadows, but I could have gone more, I think. So this one is 22 is very much a mixture of ink in the sky and then watercolour in the ground. So it's a bit of a mixed media one. And a bit of a rough sketch, but I like it. That's actually sold to my friend Brian Ramsey, who's been fundraising with me for the Cancer Research UK. So 23. Again, this was another one that I ended up doing twice because the first one I didn't like at all. And I wasn't happy to sell it even for a paltry £20. Again, I think I could have put more contrast in this. Again, this is the theme of... This is why, actually, weirdly, looking back at these is so useful, because it gives you a real indication of where you are with your art and how you feel about it. So anyway, yeah, we've been looking at 24 for a bit now. Colour was a bit of an odd choice here. I'm not sure that worked. Not one of my favourites. 26 was an experiment in underpainting, if that makes sense, like painting less is more, with a flocculating ultramarine in the sky. It gives you that lovely texture. 27, this is this wonderful little red boat. I think that's nice. Nothing wrong with that at all. I love the water. I think the water's very strong. Again, if that doesn't sell, that's going... I'll be quite happy to keep hold of that. I love it. 28, this again was another little experiment of just painting the water. The line work was so simple, it was just a lovely little sketch. I really like the line work on that one. And yeah, it feels quite sort of Spartan, but I like it. I think it feels quite classy in a way. 29, this was a really fun one to do. There's quite a lot of layering in that. Even in the sky, there was a few layers in the sky. And it's one of those ones where you really had to think about how you were going to do it before you actually sat down and painted it, and how you're going to build up the layers. I think the boat's probably, if anything, it's a little bit short, and there's some more reflection that could be put in. Another one of my favourites here, number 30, this little classic Norwegian steamer. She's a beautiful thing, and that was a real fun thing to sketch. And again, you can see this technique of waves smaller at the back and bigger at the front. And I've used a couple of different... I've done a wash for the water. I've done a wash and a variation, a sort of wet in wet wash to get pale on the horizon, and then blue in a couple of stripes in a wash, wet and wet, and then that's dried, and I've gone back in and just done the waves. So that's only like a 2-stage see. It's pretty simple. And then 31 was an interesting one because everyone was like, it's too big a scene to paint. You've got, how many boats is that? But you don't have to paint them all. You can just choose, what you want. So this was done with grey fine liner for the quay in the background, and I used grey for the houses in the background, just sort of suggestion. And then I think I used some black fountain pen for the boat and the pontoon in the foreground with the dinghies on. And then I just painted in the water. Now that water took a bit of thinking about. There's a few layers in there. There's probably sort of 2 or 3, 4 different layers. So I hope you enjoyed that, seeing all my Boatobers. It was something a little bit different. I managed to sell most of them, so I think there's about £300 that's going to be donated to Cancer Research UK, which is lovely. And some friends of mine like Brian Ramsey and people like that have raised so much more. So between the sort of 3 or 4 of us, I think must be at least £1,500. So that's good. And all those little pieces of artwork have flown off to their new homes. I love the idea of one's in Germany, there's a few in the States, there's one in Spain, one in France, and they're all on people's mantelpieces or in little frames on their walls, and that's cool, isn't it? That is really cool. So yeah, what was I saying? But the reference images are still on my website if you want to check those out and do any of the drawings. I think that's it for now. So I'll see you soon. So keep creating, keep exploring your talents, put music on, paint away, sketch, draw, just be at ease with yourself. It's a very happy place to be that. I'm talking bobbins, so I'm going to go. Ciao.